Hello everyone! Welcome to another lesson. Our talking points will be about content and performance standards, outcomes, and learning domains and taxonomies.
After this lesson, you will be able to distinguish standard-based assessments and you will be able to identify outcomes, learning domains, and taxonomies.
Now, what is the difference between content standards and performance standards? The outcomes of K-12 curriculum are spelled out in terms of standards and competencies. Standards can be presented in many ways. You can have content standards, benchmarks, and even performance standards. The first challenge is understanding what each term means. It is difficult to define all the keywords without the terms overlapping. It is therefore important that we understand the different types of standards so as to differentiate between content standards and performance standards.
Broad statements that describe specific content areas that groups of students should learn at each grade level are called content standards. They define the knowledge within each discipline. Content standards state what the learner should know after the teaching-learning process. For instance, a content standard for 6th grade science students could be in earth science, students will understand the effects of the relative positions of the earth, moon, and sun. These standards are also called curriculum standards or subject standards. Expectations for instruction, assessment, and student work are called performance standards. These incorporate content standards and define the level of work that demonstrates achievement of the standards. Performance standards are what the learners are able to do with what they know. Performance standards isolate and identify skills needed for problem solving, reasoning, communicating, and making connections with other information. They provide all constituents with the evidences that students have met the content standards, helping teachers define what level of work is satisfactory.
Deferred Order Number 8 Series of 2015 states that performance standards answer the following questions. Number 1, what learners can know? Number 2, how well must learners do their work? Number 3, how well do learners use their learning or understanding in different situations? Number 4, how do learners apply their learning or understanding in real-life context? Number 5, what tools and measures should learner use to demonstrate what they know? Here are more examples of content standard and performance standard from the K-12 curriculum guide.
Let's start with an English subject in grade 3, first quarter, grammar. The content standard is the learner demonstrates understanding of grammatical structures of English to be able to communicate effectively in oral and written forms. While performance standard, the learner show proficiency in constructing grammatically correct sentences in varied theme-based oral and written activities. For math subject in grade 7, third quarter, geometry, an example of content standard is the learner demonstrates understanding of key concepts of geometry, of shapes and sizes, and geometric relationships. While an example of performance standard, the learner is able to create models of plane figures and formulate and solve accurately authentic problems involving sides and angles of a polygon. And for Filipino subject grade 11, mga sitwasyong pangwika sa Pilipinas. An example of content standards or pamantayang pangnilalaman na uunawaan ng may masusing pagsasaalang-alang ang mga lingwistiko at kultural nakatangian, at pagkakaiba-iba sa lipunang Pilipino at mga sitwasyon ng paggamit ng wika dito. While on the other hand, for performance standard or pamantayan sa pagganap, nakagagawa ng mga pag-aaral ukol sa iba't ibang sitwasyon ng paggamit ng wikang Filipino sa loob ng kultura at lipunang Pilipino. So those are just some of the examples of content standards or performance standards given by the DepEd K-12 Curriculum Guide. Now let's proceed. There is actually a shift of educational focus from content to learning outcomes. Let's talk about the outcomes-based education. Outcomes-based education, it is an education that is anchored and focused on outcomes. It is an approach in planning, delivering, and assessing instruction, and that is called a student-centered approach. There are intentions of outcomes-based education with accomplishments. Here are the characteristics of the outcomes-based education. First, it is student-centered. Second, it is faculty-driven. And third, it is meaningful. Now, the question is, how are we going to implement outcomes-based education? To implement outcomes-based education on the subject or course level, the following procedures are recommended. First, identification of the educational objectives of the subject or course. Of course, you need to identify your objectives. Second, listing of learning outcomes specified for each subject or course objective. And third, you are going to draft outcomes assessment procedure. Now, let's move on to the outcomes of education. Outcomes-based education focuses classroom instruction on the skills and competencies that students must demonstrate when they exit or when they graduate or finish the program. Here are the two types of outcomes. We have the immediate outcome and the deferred outcome. Let's differentiate the two outcomes. When we say immediate outcome, those are competencies or skills acquired upon completion of a subject, a grade level, a segment of the program, or of the program itself. Examples: ability to communicate in writing and speaking, mathematical problem-solving skill, skill in identifying the objects by using the different senses, ability to produce artistic or literary works, ability to do research and write results, ability to present an investigative science project. So those are examples of immediate outcomes. While deferred outcome is the ability to apply cognitive, psychomotor, and affective skills or competencies in various situations many years after completion of a subject, grade level, or degree program. So it would take us a long years to observe these outcomes. Examples, we have success in professional practice or occupation. Second, promotion in a job. Third, success in career planning, health, and wellness. And fourth, awards and recognition. So again, when we say immediate outcome, the outcome happens immediately. And when we say deferred outcome, it would take long years for us to observe that outcome. This time, let's talk about the student learning outcome. Now, what is a student learning outcome? These are the skills, competencies, and values that the students are expected to demonstrate at the end of every course or subject, which are in turn integrated into the year information of students as they progress towards becoming professionals. Student learning outcome has three types of learning domains. These are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. When we say cognitive, those are mental skills or termed as knowledge. When we say affective, It means growth in feeling or emotion, and it is also termed as attitude. And lastly, when we say psychomotor, it is manual or physical skills, or merely termed as skills. Let me introduce to you to the levels of these domains. For cognitive domains, Benjamin Bloom's Taxonomy of Objectives was revised by Lauren Anderson that shows the 6 levels of learning in the cognitive domain. These are first, remembering. Remembering class, it means recalling information, recognizing, listing, describing, retrieving, naming, and finding. Second level is understanding. It means explaining ideas or concepts that includes interpreting, summarizing, paraphrasing, classifying, and explaining. The third level in the cognitive domain is applying, using information in another familiar situation. This includes implementing, carrying out, using, and executing. Now, those three, remembering, understanding, and applying, those were identified as lower order thinking skills or LOTS. Now, let's move on to the higher order thinking skills or HOTS, still under cognitive domain. So we have number 4 in the level, analyzing. Breaking information into parts to explore understandings and relationships, and this includes comparing, organizing, deconstructing, interrogating, and finding. Fifth level, we have evaluating. Justifying decision or course of action like checking, hypothesizing, critiquing, experimenting, and judging. And lastly, our highest level is creating. Generating new ideas, products, or ways of viewing things, designing, constructing, planning, producing, and even inventing. So class, those are the 6 levels of cognitive domain. We have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, let's proceed to the affective domain. David Krathwohl introduced the 5 levels of affective domain. The first level, receiving. Receiving is the lowest level of affective domain. It is simply the awareness of feelings and emotions. It involves passively paying attention and being aware of the existence of certain ideas, materials, or phenomena. Without this level, no learning can occur. If information is never received, it cannot be remembered. Second level of affective domain is responding. This level involves actively participating in the learning process. You are not only aware of a stimulus, but you react or respond to it in some way. Third level is valuing. It is the ability to see the worth of something and express it. Valuing is concerned with the worth you attach to a particular object, phenomenon, behavior, or piece of information. The fourth level is organizing. Organizing involves putting together different values, information, and ideas, then relating them to already held benefits or beliefs to bring it into an eternally consistent philosophy. Essentially, it is the ability to prioritize one value over another and create a unique value system. And the last level for affective domain is internalizing. It is also termed as characterizing. It means acting consistently in accordance with a set of values you have internalized and your characterization or philosophy about life. Essentially, you internalize values and you let them control or guide your behavior. Now, let's proceed to the third domain or the last, which is the psychomotor or skills. E. Simpson, Dave, and A.S. Horrow introduced 4 levels for the psychomotor domain. These are first level, observing. active mental attending of a physical event, the learner watches a more experienced person. Other mental activities such as reading may be part of the observation process. So merely in this level, the learner is only observing. The second level is imitating, attempted copying of a physical behavior. The first steps in learning a skill. The learner is observed and given direction and feedback on their performance. Movement is expected that it is not automatic or smooth in this level. The third level is practicing. So we believe that practice makes perfect. Trying a specific physical activity over and over. The skill is repeated over and over. The entire sequence is performed repeatedly. Movement is moving towards becoming automatic and smooth. And fourth level is adapting. This includes fine-tuning, making minor adjustments in the physical activity in order to perfect it. The skill is perfected. A mentor or a coach is often needed to provide an outside perspective on how to improve or adjust as needed for the situation. That's it! Those are the levels for the psychomotor domain. So again, the three learning domains are cognitive or knowledge, affective or attitude, and psychomotor or skills. For cognitive, we have 6 levels. For affective, we have 5 levels. And for psychomotor, we have 4 levels. Did you get it? Very good.
The K-12 curriculum is said to prepare the learner for the 21st century. The K-12 learner is expected to acquire the 21st century skills, life and career skills, information, media and technology skills, learning and innovation skills. Learning and innovation skills include critical thinking, communication skills, collaboration skills, creativity, or it is known as the 4 C's. To prepare the learner for the 21st century, then the teaching and learning process in the K-12 curriculum ought to go beyond simple recall and comprehension. It should reach the level of applying, analyzing, evaluating, and synthesizing, which are basic to the development of the 21st century skills. That's it, everyone. I hope you learned something. See you in our next session. Bye!